Hello. Today I'll show and explain our new feature, Firmware Over-the-Air Update for LoRaWAN devices. LoRaWAN was not designed to transfer large amounts of data, and this creates a problem for updating firmware, in particular, the firmware of devices in the field. This has been addressed by development of alternate communication protocols which do not conform to LoRaWAN. Bluetooth can be used, but is very short range. In the worst case, one can connect to the device with a USB cable and flash the firmware manually. To update firmware of devices installed in the field, these options may not be reasonable or can be very expensive. Everynet have developed a special algorithm and firmware loader, which can significantly reduce the amount of transferred packets to the device, making it possible to update device firmware over the air using LoRaWAN. I'll show you how it works. For this demonstration, I took a LoRaWAN device. This device has an accelerometer, temperature sensor, press button, and LED. Here you can see how the device works. It so happened we needed to give this device to the customer with an early stage of firmware. This firmware had been downloaded into the device during the first release to manufacturing, and the functions associated with the accelerometer were not implemented. So I've loaded the current firmware into our system as a baseline file, and let's see how the device works. I press the button, it is sending data package. If I shake the device, it is not sending any data since the accelerometer logic is not in the firmware. Check again. Here the data comes. Okay, so we've modified the firmware and we've added the accelerometer function. Let's see how many changes in it. To the left is the old file, to the right is the new, and everything marked in green has been added. Red is what code was removed. Here, we've added the code for the accelerometer. Everything marked in green has been added. As you can see, lots of new changes. The full firmware version is 35 kilobytes. It can be quickly calculated that to send it in pure form over LoRaWAN, you will need about 150 packets on spreading factor 7. Quite a lot of time for the device and the radio to be awake, consuming the battery and shortening the device's service life. Now, let's see how we can optimize this using our algorithm. We've added the new firmware to our version control system. The system automatically considers the size of the firmware and indicates the number of packets it will take to update. 31 packets, which is 5 times less. This is much better, and not to mention we've added some really great new functionality. Transfer of the firmware has started, and we see how it's moving the packets. Let's speed up the video now. The device has been updated, and let's see what changes have occurred to the device operation. It still sends a message and lights up when you press the button, but also it now sends a message and lights a LED when you shake it. Let's do it again. Well, we found a small bug in the firmware. We need to illuminate not the red light, but the green light. These are small changes that do not require major code alterations. It's a fairly common situation. For example, the customer asked to change a single function or a constant. See that the number of changes is very small? We can change one constant and we are all done. No additional steps necessary. So, our changes fixed the firmware in the control system. As you can see, the full firmware is still 39 kilobytes. But after our compression algorithm, this update takes 1 packet and 5 seconds. And this is absolutely amazing. Now it is possible to fix errors and make changes to device firmware quickly and easily over the air. As you see here, the device needs to activate or wake up to begin the update. Here went the update. And here it ended. Now let's see how it works now that our device is updated. The light is now green, the accelerometer still works. As you can see, this exclusive service by Everynet is running and will significantly simplify the life of the sensor developer or manufacturer. Operators, carriers, system integrators, and service providers will all benefit from faster product release to market with the peace of mind knowing that firmware can be updated without physically touching